Welcome to the Cross the Line Podcast. My name is Carlos Smith, and today's episode is sponsored by KB's Car Care on 321 North Main Street in Jonesville, South Carolina. They offer hand car wash, vacuum, and clean interior. Full detail is also available. While you wait on your vehicle, customer seating is available as well as the dining area. They're open Tuesday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., so make sure you stop by. Floor covers. This episode is also sponsored by Floor Covers International on 1460 Emmett Road in Welford, South Carolina. So thank you, Ms. Jenna Rosman, for also being the sponsor of this episode. And today we have another special guest with us on the Cross the Line Podcast, Self-Investment Tour. We're in Fort Lauderdale. I wanted to make sure we didn't call it Miami.
Oh, yeah.
Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, we're in Fort Lauderdale right now.
And we have a very successful entrepreneur with us. He's the owner of Dungeon Ford, Mr. David Castro. How you doing?
No, I'm good. I appreciate you having y'all, man. I appreciate y'all taking the drive from Miami. It's not too far. It's not too far, man.
But it's what we call it. This is what it's for, man. We call it the self-investment tour. Like I said, we just, invested in ourselves with the help of some sponsors as well. Put up our own money, and we just wanted to hit the road and travel to places we never seen before. Mm-hmm. And this is actually my second time actually getting on a plane. We did our first tour last year, and we went to Jacksonville. We flew to Jacksonville. So this year.
Your second time ever being on the plane?
Second time ever being on a plane.
How was that?
It was cool until they lost my luggage.
Oh, okay.
Before then, it was
everything
all right.
good.
But I get a little bit nervous, like sometimes if I feel like jumping a little bit. Like, man, why is it shaking like that? But other than that,
that's crazy,
it wasn't too bad. But the first time, man, we ended up being late for our flight. Mm-hmm. So we had to wait for maybe about 4 or 5 hours. Yeah. And then this time right here, they ended up losing their luggage. Yeah. So that's why I was trying to. Well, I appreciate you for taking the time to kind of like working with us.
Yeah, no problem, man.
We wanted
flexible.
To make sure we had all the equipment and everything to make this interview possible and make it successful. But it was just like, man, my first 2 flights already, I missed one, and then this one they lost my luggage. Bro.
Right, you're gonna be a pro after this one.
Yeah, I hope so. But man,
life happens though.
Yeah, but we appreciate you taking the time again. This is for the people watching it. I know they looking at me like, man, he wearing a hat because I never wore a hat.
Yeah. But you in the dungeon today, so you got to be crowned.
Man, I love it. Yeah. Man. I actually feel like a draft pick, first round pick. Man. I got a hat on, earrings in, I got my watch on. I feel like a draft pick, man. But I really appreciate it, man. I love the hats, man. They're very creative. We were looking at it when we first came in.
No, I appreciate it.
But starting out, Dungeon Ford. Can you tell us how long have you actually been in business?
Yeah, so the parent company is Complex Apparel, and we started a parent company in 2007. Dungeon Ford was an epiphany moment that I had in 2009, 2010, and so we've been working on that brand since then. But it wasn't always headwear, so initially it was tees, shorts, and full ensemble, and it wasn't until around like 2015 that I decided to scale back and focus holistically on the crown. Mm-hmm. And the main reason was, one, like we bootstrapped this business. So all money that's invested, there's no external funds that came into this business. It's been step-by-step, slow growth, right? Maintain 100% equity. And in doing that, when you try to shoot your shot all over the place, you end up like spreading yourself too thin. And what I realized was there was an opportunity in headwear where people weren't really focusing on that. It was always an afterthought for a multitude of brands, and for me, it was the crown of the outfit. I decided to make the move to 100% solely focus on headwear for a period of time until, eventually expanding into a full ensemble again.
So what's the actual meaning of like the name
Dungeon Forward?
Yeah.
All right, so it's basically to highlight ambition, right? And it's also a mix of my life story. So think of it like from the dungeon forward, or from nothing to something, right? You start, like ideas for me start in this space where nobody can even experience them, right? And I feel like it would be tragic if I didn't move those ideas forward into actual space where people can touch and feel and it's tangible for them to deal with. But on top of that, like my life has been one where I've always constantly been striving, ambitious, and striving within my ambitions to build a better life for my family. And so Dungeon Forward encompasses that in 2 words, like from the dungeon forward. Like no matter what, you can start in the dungeon, but every step from that moment is forward. You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely. So when you talk about your family and everything, I know you said growing. I think you said you were born in Fayetteville.
Yeah, I was born in Fayetteville.
How long did you live there? Did you stay
man.
there long?
So I think so I moved around. I'm an Army brat.
Okay.
So I was in Fort Bragg. I was born at Walmack Hospital. if y'all familiar. And I stayed there up until, I want to say, actually, I went to preschool in Hawaii. So we moved, went to preschool in Hawaii, started kindergarten in Hawaii, moved back to Fayetteville, did kindergarten through the beginning of 5th grade. But every single year, it was a different school because I was moving around that much. And then so we finally ended up settling on Florida. While I was in the 5th grade, I went to 3 schools that year. So I always had to be versatile anyway, like in meeting people, networking, et cetera, just simply because I never really had that base.
Right.
And we didn't have like Facebook and all that stuff to really maintain connections with friends from back then like they do now. Like you could move about and still maintain connections with your people now. Back then it really wasn't possible if you didn't have somebody's phone number or you couldn't remember their last name. And when you in grade school, you don't remember anybody's last name. But we moved down to Florida. I finished up school here, and I was living in West Palm at the time. Yeah.
So I know you say you were an Army brat, but where did you feel like you got that bug from? Is like as far as like entrepreneurship and the creativity. Did you have anybody in your family that you were aware of that was somewhat of an entrepreneur, or where did you think you got it from?
So I mean, I've always been an entrepreneur to a degree. Like I was the dude in school that was selling candy. You know, I was always figuring out a way to do something to make money, even if it was like to do chores to make some money for my parents. Like I always thought that there was a way that you could use your skill set to bring in some level of income, right? No matter what it was, independently of a job. And but I do have a cousin, his name is Frankie, who I met at one of my other family members' funeral for the very first time. And he is a tailor. And so he can make anything from scratch. And I definitely think that influenced me to a degree. Like seeing, because he was wearing an outfit. At the time, he was wearing a denim outfit, full denim. I think they call it like a farmer suit. And it was, at the time, there was like this shimmered denim that was hot for a little moment, and then it went away, thankfully, really quickly. But I thought it was dope when he had it. And I was like, man, where you get that? He was like, oh, I made it. I'm like, you made it? You know, I knew my mom, she sewed, but I never met a dude that sewed, right? And so it gave, you know, I thought it was something for women, and you know, gender rules and stuff and biases like that. Back then, you're like, okay, now you're gonna do this, you're gonna do this. Right. But when I saw him do it, I was like, okay, maybe that's something that I could do. Didn't do anything at the time. I was still young, but I know that it stuck with me and eventually influenced me to go that route. But as far as like entrepreneurship is concerned, most of the people in my family went the job route. Like I'm somewhat of an anomaly to have left the corporate world and be focusing holistically on Dungeon Forward.
Why do you think, you know, we hear about a lot of successful people as well, like, you know, a lot of times, sometimes they struggle with school, they're not interested, but for some reason, entrepreneurship, they just thrive in it. But why do you think that happens that way as far as like entrepreneurship, where like it's somewhat, it's like we were talking about earlier, it's kind of like we don't talk about it in school. It's like almost like it's kind of frowned upon. It's like we're always taught to go work for somebody else. But why do you think that is in that case where a lot of people, entrepreneurs, become successful, and sometimes school may not be for them in certain situations? I mean,
I did go to school. You know, I graduated from FAM with an architecture degree, and I went to University of Miami to get my master's in architecture. And I'm a proponent of college, but at the same time, I agree with you in the sense that they don't really teach you entrepreneurship. They don't teach you money management. You know, it's wild to me that like you can't get a business loan, but you could get $100,000 in a school loan. That seems ass backwards, because if you don't really have an opportunity to pay for it on the back end, then you're putting yourself in more of a bind than you would if you were building a business, right? And so I think entrepreneurship is a calling. Like it's something where you can be the person that goes to school like myself, that works in a corporate structure, that's successful in that space, but still be empty on the inside, because you know they're getting 25% of what you're capable of. And because you're spending that time with them, giving them that 25%, you're not using that 75% at all, right? And so you're not even really exploring what you could potentially do for yourself. And I found myself in that predicament, you know, before I left the corporate structure. I was building medical centers for a health insurance company, and I was killing it, like top performer, top everything, like moving up on executive track. But with every promotion, it just felt more empty. And it was just like, you know what? I don't know why I'm here. Like, this is not giving me any fulfillment. And every day that I'm at work, I'm just really looking forward to getting back to Dungeon Forward.
Absolutely.
And so at one point, I just had to make the decision, like, what am I afraid of? You know, I have all of these credentials on the back end. If I want to go back and dive in and get a job, I could do that at a later date. But you're not always gonna have the energy to pursue something that's an anomaly, that's a you know, off the beaten path. Like, when you're 50 years old and you've never tried to do something entrepreneurial, let me not say that you're not, but it's less likely that you'll have the energy to really power drive through some of the challenges that come with entrepreneurship.
And it's just like it's kind of like that culture of, like, which is like you said, I fell into the same cycle. Like I was telling you, just getting up and just going to work.
Yeah,
you picking up a paycheck, you paying bills, you great credit, everything. Like you say, you still feel empty inside. It's like, man, it's just like, I'm just doing this. I'm just going through the motions every single day. And it's just like, man, I would tell anybody, just go for what you want to do, man. 'Cause like you said, nothing's guaranteed anyway. It don't matter if you working at a major Fortune 500 company or you have your own. Like, we all got to leave here anyway. And it's just something for me personally, just feeling more fulfilled. Like, you know, doing something that you love doing and you're invested in it and it's your own. But like I said, if you talk to most people and if you talk to the average person, you tell them, man, all I'm doing is just working, just paying bills. First thing they gonna say, man, that's life. Welcome to the real world. That's just how it is. Like most people, like you said, they never take their chance to just step out and really do what they want to do. But for you, what would you say, was it like any particular moment where you said, like I know you say you felt empty, but what was it that you knew it was like, okay, now it's really time to like leave?
Oh man, so at my last job, it definitely is a moment, right? And there was a point in time where I knew that there were people that I was working with that took issue with my quality of work. Not saying that my quality of work was bad, but they took issue with how good I was consistently able to deliver, because it was almost challenging what they had done prior to me arriving, right? And so I knew this, right? And sometimes I would play into it even just because it was funny to me. But at the same time, when you have folks that work within an entity that have been there for a significant period of time, they tend to have influence on people that might be up in higher ranks. And so while my performance was amazing, right, there were little nuanced items that I would be approached about that had nothing to do with work. So there was one specific period of time where my boss, who I had a great relationship with, came to me. He was like, David, you know, I hate to even have this conversation with you right now, but I have to, because you're going to be talking to my leader and XXX. I was like, all right, what's up? He said, so I heard you've been working from a co-work space, right? Now, the space that I was working from, that was like our office, right? I didn't have really too many interactions with the people that were in that office. And we didn't have Wi-Fi. So I said, you know what, fuck it. I'm going to pay for sessions to go to this spot. They got a little coffee bar, and I'm going to work from there. Same type of environment, just more suiting to me.
Right.
I was able to do more work, be more efficient. Exactly. And my boss at the time, he knew that, right? So when he came to me, he's like, listen, I'm not going to lie to you. I told him I didn't know. I said, it's okay. Don't worry about it. What's the next one, right? So he says, well, the second one, I'm not sure why this even matters, but I heard you bought a drone. And at this point, I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? A drone? I don't even understand what the relevance is of this, right? And so apparently, like, somebody I work with who, I don't know, had some issue. I have no idea.
Jealous.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it was, right? It was somebody that didn't really have a pedigree that kind of like worked out the mailroom and, you know, that type of stuff. And I came in with this background, and it just made them feel uncomfortable. But this person went behind me and was, oh yeah, he's working in an executive suite. He bought this drone to take pictures of his construction projects so that he can then take business elsewhere. So to me, I'm dying laughing on the inside, because I'm like, what you don't know is I do have a full-fledged business on the side of this, but you are completely wrong about what it is, right? You have absolutely no idea what it is. But the fact that y'all mention this to me, knowing that I'm the best performer in this group, means that there's a cultural issue, right? And the fact that I have to respond to it is like, this is beneath me at this point. Like, why do I even have to have this conversation when I'm killing the work that I'm doing?
Right.
And so I turned in my resignation letter. epic resignation letter, right? Like I highlight all the issues with the company, everything, right? And I tell my manager, I said, listen, I want you to promise to me that you're going to give this to your leader exactly as it is. He's like, David, I don't know if I want you to do that. He's like, you might put yourself in a predicament where you might not be able to re-enter a workspace. I said, that's not my concern, right? My concern is there are a lot of issues within this space, and if they continue to go, y'all not gonna go anywhere. You're not gonna prevail at all of these challenges that already exist. So I'm gonna cut the story short. They convinced me to stay, right? I leave that weekend. I came back. I had added more stuff to my resignation, and then he finally asked me, like, would you consider working on a different team? I was like, yeah. What are you thinking? So I go and I work on a team that was focused on innovation. Kill it on that team again. But at the same time, now I'm no longer really committed to this company at all. Before I was, right? Mm-hmm. But once I hit that wall, I'm like, okay, there's a cultural difference here. I'm already an entrepreneur at this point. I'm going to figure out a way that I could move and focus on this. So for about, say maybe like 8 months, I stuck it out and kind of like stacked and planned and stacked and planned. And I was like, I planned on exiting in that November because there were some options that were vesting. I got to September. It was my 35th birthday. And I said, there's no way I'm going into my birthday with this job. I'm quitting. Called my wife. I told her, hey, listen, I'm making an exit. She was working at the time, so our insurance was going to be maintained. And I was just like, I believe I could do it. And she was like, I believe it. And so I made that jump and haven't looked back since.
I want to get back to the business shortly, but
yeah.
Just talking about that culture, like, it's always something like it's amazing with these stories. Like we hear it all the time, even with like, the article with ESPN lately. I'm not sure if you heard about Maria Taylor with the NBA Finals coverage and all that.
No, I haven't.
It's long story short is another employee there. She's a white lady, Rachel Nichols, and basically the same thing where she didn't want Maria Taylor, black lady, covering the finals in a certain aspect. She wanted to kind of do like the sideline instead of being like the main host and moderator. Okay. So basically like those kind of stories like with the culture change, like a lot of people pushing back talking about how ESPN has that culture change where you can move up to a certain level but you can't do certain things. All that type of stuff like that and clashing. But it's like for so long they've been trying to push off those, and not just them, it's like a lot of major corporations, they try to push off that about those culture issues. Why do you think that hinders a lot of companies as well? Because they, when it comes to like racial issues, diversity, and all those type of things, it's like those kind of things like that. Like you were maybe you were alluding to it as well. It's like those type of things kind of hurt those companies.
So I think with me, so I wasn't alluding to like a racist, right? Because I don't think that would be a company-wide thing. So the leader of my organization was a previous mentor of mine, right? Black guy, right? And so all the people that I'm talking about were beneath him, right? But I didn't really communicate with him directly about this, because I already kind of knew where my direction was going, and the people that this was happening with were irrelevant to my regular life. Like you only exist with power in this workspace. Like you don't have any influence on my regular life. But at the same time, I'm not about to deal with y'all foolishness here, and I'm not about to wait for something to happen for me not to have to deal with it. So I'm gonna just make my own decision and figure out my destiny on my own, right? Well, there was one saying that I've heard: if you don't like your boss, fire your boss, right? The only way to fire your boss is get a new gig. My new gig just happened to be 100% working on my own business. But I do think that a lot of companies miss the mark because they try to look at diversity like only quantitatively, right? Like, okay, we need this type of people here. We need this many type of people here. This many type of people here. Now, while that works, in some ways, because you want there to be a multitude of opinions, right? Both men, women, and people of all ethnic backgrounds, because they can discover things that might be issues, right? Like that Gucci incident that happened where they had that sweater that was like how could this even hit the market? Yeah. Well, it was designed by a French man who doesn't even really, who may or may not even understand U.S. race culture, right, and the history, right. So while he's doing that, and I'm not gonna excuse it because I don't know if he know, I don't know if he doesn't. But if there was somebody black in that room, that would have never hit the market. They would have been like, oh, wait, no, we can't do this, right? At least if they had the gumption to make that call. And I think the other place where they missed the mark is not truly diving in to understand one another, right? Because where issues happen in the workplace, it's not always from like the CEO. You got 40,000 people working for a major company. Like those issues are gonna happen in those individual sections of the business. And they're not that difficult to discover. It's just people don't like being inconvenienced by discovering those things. And that's why like the way that I run this space is it's always gonna be an opportunity for you to grow. It's just a matter of whether or not you want it or not. Are you gonna raise your hand? Because sometimes people will sit in a role and they keep their mouth shut. They just sit in the back, kind of get their work done and leave, right? Maybe they're not scared to speak up. Maybe they don't know that they should. But closed mouth don't get fed, right? And so if you never say, hey, I want to do more, then the person that is managing you 9 times out of 10 won't give you that opportunity. Now, granted, in my space, we're a small business. It's always going to be opportunity. It's always going to be something for you to do. It's just a matter of, are you willing to learn? Are you willing to expand your mindset? And are you willing to sometimes take some time on your own to figure things out that you don't know in the workplace? Because you can't always learn in office, you know. But yeah, man, as far as diversity is concerned, if companies do not make that a priority for themselves, like eventually it's gonna hurt them, because the United States is only getting browner and browner, you know.
Absolutely. So I want to go back to you when you said when you left the job. Was it so you didn't have any fear at all when you left? Or was there any
of course.
And how was it that starting phase? Okay, you quit your job and then you go all in. Like how was that official phase of like in the early days of just going all in with your business? And was the name changed to Dungeon 4 then after you quit, or what?
No. It's been Dungeon 4 since 2010. Okay. The brand, the entity, the umbrella company is still the same name. Okay. Still Complex Apparel. That's who pays the bills. And Dungeon 4 is a trademark brand underneath Complex Apparel. But I'm scared now. You know what I mean? That's what keeps me going. Like I'm nowhere near complacent. Like all the bills got to get paid, you know, and everybody has to get paid before I do, because that's my commitment to them, you know. And so I feel like if you get comfortable, that's when things falter. And the beautiful thing about taking that jump is your back is against the wall, right? And when you against the ropes, there's only one way to get out of them ropes. Either you do a rope-a-dope, which that's not really the way. You fight your way out, right? And so every day, that's what I'm doing. Like it's a boxing match every day. I look at our numbers every day. I look at it both from a creative aspect, like what are we doing creatively to really intrigue the people that rock with the brand, and then what are we doing from a statistical standpoint to make sure that we maintain the sales volume that we need to maintain to keep the business going.
Do you study any other apparel companies to see what they're doing and what you can do, or do you kind of focus strictly on the things that you what you guys are doing?
So I definitely got my finger on the pulse of the industry as a whole, right? I think that's only responsible, right? You have to do that. But I'm insular. I don't feel like Dungeon Ford has a specific competitor, right? Because of the way that we approach what we do. You know, headwear for a very long period of time has been the afterthought, right? It's the thing, like you finish your outfit and you're like, okay, what can I top this off with, right? And normally, like it might be something that's like associated with a team, or it might be something that, I mean, that 9 times out of 10, that's what it is. Like, where are you from? Okay, I'm from Miami. I'm gonna wear a Marlins hat. I'm gonna wear a Dolphins hat. I'm gonna wear a Heat hat, right? But for me, I felt like there was so much more opportunity for both storytelling and innovation within the space. And so right now, I feel like we're still in a moment where we occupy a space that damn near nobody really is occupying. And so it's up to us to spread awareness as fast as possible before people kind of catch on to what we're doing.
Because like I said, when I saw the hats, I was like, these are creative. When we were talking earlier about how I found you guys,
yeah.
I think the first person I actually seen was
we call them crowns, by the way.
Crowns.
Yeah.
Crowns.
No, you good.
But
we know what it is ultimately, but that's
Chad was the first one that I saw with the crown.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I think he tagged you guys or some kind of way. And then I went into looking into it, and I was like, man, I love it. These are just different. It's not like you said, like the same thing with like from this area, Miami Dolphins, Florida Marlins, those type of things. It was just something different. But I just love the creativity that you guys have behind everything, and you put your own spin to it and do something different. But like you said, it is important to kind of like keep a post on what you're doing, but it's not like you want to say, hey, I like what they're doing. Let me take it and just copy, imitate.
Nah, I feel like that's not artistry. You know, like people that do that are just not creatives. At the end of the day, like Chad has a affinity for FAMU. Like he has a family member that went to FAMU, and he went to a lot of FAMU homecomings. He just loves FAMU. So when he goes onto the podcast, he loves to wear FAMU affiliated apparel, right? And so we had reached out to him some time ago, and then he got word of what we had launched at that point in time, and he hit us up on Instagram and was like, yo, I need to wear this on I Am Athlete. And I was like, bet that up. At the time, he was in Tampa. He was like, I'm coming back. I think it was the following day, and he texted me. And so when he came back, he hit me up. He was like, I'm on my way back. I'm gonna be at the crib. So we ended up meeting at Bahama Breeze for lunch. And so I brought a couple things, gave it to him. I didn't expect him to pay for it. He tried to pay for it, right? And I was just like, nah, don't worry about it. And so while I was there, I had ordered lunch for my wife and myself, and he picked up the tab for that. I mean, he's a stand-up guy. You know, like even the conversation was a stand-up conversation. And I know a lot of people probably have their opinions, but I'm just basing it on my interaction with him, and it was a positive one.
Right.
So salute to that. But it was dope to see him on the podcast, and then after that, there was one other dude on the podcast that ended up wearing one of our shirts too.
Talk about. I want to let you talk about this as well. Like when I just said hat and you said crown. Talk about the importance of using crown, because like 9 times out of 10, the majority of people are gonna go around and say hat.
Yeah,
hat.
And we don't take any offense to that, by the way. But it's because of the amount of thought that goes into the headwear that we create. So when you think about when I hear somebody hat, right, I automatically think about something that has a logo slapped on it, right? And it's not too much thought invested in the concept of that hat. It's more utility. Like I need a hat to block the sun. I need a hat, something quick that matches the same color as my outfit. But there's a level of intentionality that goes into the work that we do. Like I want to inspire you. I want to educate you. I want to make you feel like what you're wearing on your head is something that aligns with who you are as a person, right? And I'd say 80% of the time we hit the mark on that, right? 20% of the time, like we're creating headwear that we know that you'll be attracted to. I call it fishing, right? Because I'm like putting out this bait, and the bait might be something that you're familiar with. But as soon as I reel you in on that bait, you get exposed to the real of what Dungeon Ford is, like from the Dungeon Ford, like the things that align with that mantra. And so that's why we call it crowns, because there's intent, there's detail, there's a level of finesse in some of those details where you might not even recognize them for a period of time. And then you hit us up a month later like, oh, I just looked at the inside. I didn't even realize this was there, right. You know? And so that's what makes it a crown. That's why we ourselves call them crowns, because we put our work on a pedestal. You know what I'm saying?
And it's like what I would say, it's power in your words as well.
Yeah,
like those things.
Exactly.
And like and that value. So that's something I'm glad you corrected me on this as well, because like I said, it's value, and it shows like. And for me, I never want to shortchange anybody's work, because I know how hard it is as an entrepreneur and the work that you put in. So you definitely want to let people know you value and appreciate their work. So crowns. For people watching, this is a crown that I have on my head right now with that, and Mr. Castro has on his head as well. But for you, what would you say is the hardest part of running a business?
It's figuring out what you need to focus on in the exact moment that it needs to be focused on. So like every day there's a million things to do, right? Like we just signed a deal with Nickelodeon, right? Wow. And there was a period.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it. It's a 2-year deal. I haven't even announced it publicly on our own feed, but it's done. Ink is signed, and we're gonna be working with them. And so as a component of that, like we had to make a decision on, okay, what assets are we going to work with within that space, right? Assets meaning like some of their like commercial properties. So think of it like a SpongeBob, Garfield, like all of those different things. And so that means that now time is ticking, right? This is a 2-year deal, but you have all of these conflicting obligations that you have to work on, adjacent to making sure you're getting something that complies or that is Dungeon Forward at its soul, but that also is representative of the brand that you're collaborating with, right? Mm-hmm. And you have to develop that within a timely manner. Wow, you also got to file your taxes. You got to work on trademark. You got to do some copywriting. You got to get packages out. You got to make sure your lease is straight. You got to fix the AC. You know, you got to fix leaks in the back. And so you always have all of these different things that are overlapping, and figuring out what to focus on in the moment is one of the hardest things. And then also making sure you got to live-work balance. I have a daughter, you know, and I took yesterday off because I had been away. You know, I was working. I go to the beach every morning, 5:30 in the morning. I catch the sunrise every single day. It's a new habit of mine, and it's probably one of the best things I've ever done in my life because it starts you off centered yourself. Right. You know what I mean? And in doing that, sometimes I work. I go out there for 2 hours. I come back. I'm changing my clothes. I kick it with my daughter for a little bit. I come to work. Well, on Wednesday we had a photo shoot, so work was longer. It was extended, right? I end up leaving around 8 o'clock. Go home, and then I have to help. I told somebody I would help them do some marketing in Miami. So I go to the crib, and I catch an Uber. So I could sleep in the Uber on the way down, right? Expensive ass Uber. When I get back to the crib, it's like 2 a.m., but I'm not gonna miss going to the beach the next morning at 5:30. So I wake up 5:30, I go to the beach, I come home, I'm exhausted. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to work, because if I go to work, I'm gonna come home, I'm gonna sleep, and my daughter's not gonna experience me that day. And so I had to make a decision on the fly. Like, let me cancel my meetings and focus on this. And so that's always the most difficult thing. Like, where's the hierarchy of needs? You know, my daughter's at the top. I don't give a shit. I close all this shit down for her. But beyond that, there's also the legacy I want to leave for her. So there's a balance. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There's a balance with my availability, my time, and then making sure that she's good when I'm gone. Right. You know?
I think that's one of the toughest things as well. Like you said, with balance, of course, you take care of your family. Of course, you need to take care of yourself, because if you're not good with yourself, then how can you do anything else? But man, that's one of the things I struggle with as well. You know, for me, is just, you know, with just taking on so many things, and even just planning interviews. I want to make sure we have this set up, but then also I'm thinking ahead, like, okay, what's next when we get back home? Yeah. Because I know we got to go back to Atlanta. We got to go to California.
And you got to find some time to edit.
Yeah, got to find time to edit, and then at the same time, like, I have 3 kids, so my son is on the cover of the book with me. So right. It's just hard, because sometimes I know what we're doing is a grind, and like me taking flights and driving all over the place, it's like I'm missing that time with them as well. And I know they don't care about anything. They just want to be with daddy. That's all they want. Yeah,
they'll never comprehend what it is that you're actually trying to do for them. At least not at this stage.
And then for me also, it's like, man, I'm doing all this, but then I think about my partner Calvin as well. It's like, man, I appreciate him because he's investing in everything that we're doing, but at the same time, I'm pulling him away from his family as well. Yeah. So it's like, man, that's the toughest part for me, because, you know, trying to balance everything with work and your family, and then pulling somebody else away from their family. Yeah. For me, that's one of the hardest parts. But I know it's like I said, that kids, they don't really understand it. Yeah. But, you know, long term, it's like, what do you want to leave for them? And that's one of the things I want to make sure. It's like, I don't want them to feel like it's okay to settle. Yeah. Just don't settle and get comfortable, because I just saw, like I said over and over in these interviews, I just saw my parents just get up and go to work for somebody else. Right. So when you see those things, it's kind of like, that's reality. That's what life is. You just gotta get up and go to work for somebody else. But I'm like, no, I'm just determined to like show them like it's okay to invest in yourself. And one day, you know, we went to the beach yesterday, and I FaceTimed them, and I showed them the beach. Yeah. And I was like, I'm gonna take y'all to the beach. You know, make sure they know. You know. Right. One of these trips, Daddy gonna bring y'all with him. Yeah. It's family and then work-life balance is one of those toughest things.
100%.
For 100%.
And you mentioned like your parents like just waking up, going to work, and coming home, and that's what you saw. Like for me, like one of the things that I realized is that there's always opportunity behind discomfort, right? the more you move towards discomfort and tension, the more you become like who you are supposed to be, right? So like if you, like there's a lot of people that won't start, right? They'll plan. They'll tell you what they want to do. They'll tell you what they're gonna do, but you never see action. The main reason you don't see action is fear, right? Every single person that breaks through that like barrier of fear, I tell you, I don't care if they fail, right? It's never a failure because you've shattered something that was mental, that was metaphysical. It wasn't even there. It wasn't real. You know what I'm saying? And you realize that on the back end, you look back and you're like, damn, why didn't I do this? Like, why didn't I just try? Now I know that this don't work, but I realize that this works. And I could shoot in that direction and pivot or whatever it might be. But I think our parents, and to some degree, not their fault, like we're talking about, only a few generational gaps between people being enslaved, because I don't like to use the term being slaves, because it takes away the responsibility of the party that enslaved them, which is they're the bad person, right? But then you have our great-grandparents, right, who may have witnessed some of that, at least sharecropping, then our grandparents and our parents, right? That's only 3 generations, bro. But the dopest part about that is like where we're at right now. And when you look at that and adjacent to the counterparts that had our people enslaved, there's many instances where we're lapping them multiple times, and that just goes to say a lot about our culture and what Black excellence is. And it's like the more that you reach inside yourself and realize how excellent you are and what you've been blessed with as a Black human being, like you will realize that there is absolutely nothing that is unattainable, right?
Absolutely.
Even outside of like, work and entrepreneurship. I mean, maybe it's just a place that you want to see or a person that you want to meet. It's always possible. Always. Like I really 100% believe that because I've seen it. Like I've experienced it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And it's so important. Two things I took away from that was so important. Like it actually 2 things happened this past week. This past week when you talking about getting started with something. Somebody asked me, reached out to me and said, hey, I've been thinking about doing a podcast for a long time.
Right.
And they were asking me some of the tips about some of the things that I've done. I was like, honestly, man, when I first started, I just had a laptop and I used to take it place to place and interview different business owners. That's how I started. But the most important thing I told them, whatever you do, just get started.
Yeah.
I said, it's not going to be perfect. Just get started and you'll figure out things along the way. But I said, procrastination kills everything.
100%.
And when you do something like this, like when you do something you want to do, the people that reach out to you because they're looking up to you, like you're inspiring them. Like it's amazing. Like this was just a couple of days ago and I posted it online. Never met this guy a day in my life. Don't even know who he is, but I'm thankful that he reached out to me. But he left a note from my website. He sent an email. He's like, man, I just appreciate what you did. I want to thank you for because the interview he was referring to was with Dr. Lakeisha Hallman.
The Village Market in Atlanta.
In Atlanta, yeah. We interviewed her about a year and a half ago, and he was like, man, I think that was a powerful interview. Me and my wife want to thank you because you use your platform and you allow her to speak and share her vision. It was like, man, we love what you're doing and keep on going. And it's like those things like that. You never know what'll happen. Like these things don't happen if you don't.
If you don't reach out and you try.
You don't try. So like the main thing is you just have to get started. And like when I interview these people, man, I just tell them, hey, my first thing is like I made sure I had a solid body of work because I didn't just pop out doing this. For me, I was doing broadcasting in college.
Yeah.
So I had the chance to cover professional sports like the Hornets, the Panthers. I did all kind of high school sports and everything. But at the same time, I knew this was something I wanted to do. But the main thing is, like you said, back to something else you said, open your mouth. Closed mouth don't get fed. I had to, reach out to people and to let them know what I was doing when I was in college and everything. But the main thing, like you said, was just get started. Because if you don't, man, you just gonna be stuck.
That's it.
In the rut.
That's it.
But I want to ask you something else. For Dungeon Ford, when did you feel like that moment was for you where you was like, okay, our business is going to sustain? Like you just mentioned, like with Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
But when did you know, like, okay, my business is going to be here for the long run? Like I know it's gonna stay.
Man, I don't think you ever really know. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because I feel like that kind of goes back to the point I made about complacency, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I have confidence in my capabilities, right? I have confidence in the work that we do, and I have confidence in the ability to notice like a trend. Like let's say we're trending down in sales and we need to make some adjustments. Like even just this past month, right? There was a change in the way that Facebook can interact with iOS 14, and there's a lot more privacy, and you have to opt into certain analytics, and that impacts the types of ads that you can be served that are more relevant to you, right? As a result of that, right, the lack of the ability to access that algorithm on these iPhones limits the effectiveness of ads that you run on Facebook, right? Simple as that. So we saw a decline, right? And so now every day it's like action, like okay, let's try a different strategy. Let's try a different strategy. It's fun because you have moments where it's like, oh shit, this shit working, right? And then you have moments like yesterday where it's like, yo, who got the magnifying glass on us today? You know, like
Right.
this is a like at 50% of what we should have brought in today, right? But that's on a day-to-day basis every day. And so like Mike sees it, and y'all can't see him, but he works with us for fulfillment. But he sees it directly because he's working with the packages, right, that are going out, and we're all talking about it on a regular basis. Like, okay, what's moving? Because if that's moving, then maybe we need to throw some ads behind that. But ultimately, like, you never know, right? And so I have confidence in the ability to figure it out, right? I can't say that what we're doing now will work 5 years from now. It won't. I know it can't. There's no possibility that it will work 5 years from now. But you do things to prepare, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that we're doing is we're developing like a fan base, right? The way you do that is you talk directly to your people, right? And so that's why we have less interest in getting into retailers. Even though we have a relationship with retailers, it's not like our favorite space because we're not having direct dialogue with our consumers. Mm-hmm. Now, with more people being comfortable with e-commerce, you talk to them directly, but they're also submitting their information to you so you can reach back out to them, right? And you could send things to them that are relevant to them. And if they've interacted with you before and they're satisfied by it, they love it, they talk about it, they post about it, then you know that the likelihood that they might come back next year is pretty high. And so that's what the focus is on this lifetime relationship with the people that rock with the brand, you know?
And when we talk about like being complacency and things like that, not being complacent, signing a deal like that with Nickelodeon, do you feel like any of those deals just keeps adding more and more pressure, and especially like those big corporations, big companies like that? Is it more added pressure?
So I think anytime like you want to get through a door, like you're not really aware of like what's behind it, right? So I remember like when I was in college, I was like, man, I saw people leaving and they got these jobs where they travel. I was like, man, I really want a job that sends me places, right, where I get to travel. And what I didn't realize was like I should have been more specific, right? Because I got a gig and then I traveled a couple times, but I'm traveling to like these BS area, like where nobody wants to go, you know what I mean? And I think like the dopest spot that I ended up going to was Geneva, Switzerland, right? That was probably the coolest place I got to travel. Before that, I got to travel for a period of time to Charlotte, which I really love that city. But in that, what I realized was I wanted something because I saw it, but I didn't really understand why I wanted it. And then I realized that this is really super inconvenient, right? Like this is crazy inconvenient. And so like with the deals that I make with companies like Nickelodeon, we just had a deal with Airheads. The most difficult part of that is relinquishing a level of control, right? Of not necessarily creative control, because they chose to work with us because of our creativity, but what I create, right, now requires approval. Mm-hmm. Whereas like if it's in-house and it has nothing to do with any other entity, there's no approval required. Yeah, it's just me. There's no approval required. There's no like back and forth, no give and take. And so that is a different type of work, right? And so I just have to realize myself that I can only do like one or two of those at a time. because I don't like to be confined. Like I don't want my creativity to be confined at all. So like even in choosing a partnership, we have some of those discussions up front. Like, you know, what level of flexibility are we going to have? Is this going to be a true collaboration? Is this more like a licensing structure? Like all of those things matter, right? And with Nickelodeon, I really love the way that they allow us to be us within their space. And like our rep Becky, we did a launch for a campaign that we did called Art Black with 4 artists. Melissa Mitchell out of Atlanta, Chuck Styles out of Philly.
Melissa Mitchell, she does like the color, like hair.
Yeah. So we did a collaboration with her. Yeah, that's the homie. Chuck Styles out of Philly, X Pain out of Tennessee, and another artist down here, Miami Nate, and that was called Art Black, right? And so when we launched that, we did a video launch live, and so Becky, who's my rep from Nickelodeon, when I talked to her after that, she was like elated. She was like, "Oh, I was on the live. I was like, I know him, all this stuff." And like to me, I was like, we go back to the discussion about culture. I was like, she's for the culture. She gets it, right? So I'm down for this collaboration because I feel like we're gonna be able to be true to the culture. Like we're not gonna be watered down. And so that's why I really was like, okay, I accept this one. But that's something that us as creatives, like you can't just go after every opportunity because every single one of them is not going to be a fulfilling one. You're going to feel you might feel a little bit empty on the back end of that. And I've experienced that too.
How important is that you can have that to keep that, for one, sense of control, like ownership in a sense, and also that freedom of that creativity? Because a lot of times, you know, some people, you know, yes, it might be a big opportunity, but like you say, you lose a lot of that freedom and a lot of the ownership, and then you have to go by their book.
Yeah.
How important is that? And a lot of times, like for a lot of our company, a lot of businesses, we build it up in a certain way and then we sell it. But how important is it to maintain that ownership and creativity?
I mean, so I'm an artist before I'm a businessman, right? And so if somebody was going to invest in Dungeon 4, which we're not looking for investors, but let's say we got on the market, we got our books like really pristine and like started shopping like investors, right? The reason that I just would never want to do that is because of what I'll call like an absolution of business, right? It means you go where the dollars go only, right?
Right.
And so there's business moves that I can make right now that I know would be lucrative, but they're in spaces I'm uninterested in, right? So it wouldn't be authentic. It wouldn't really be who we are, you know? It would be like faking it, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so for me, I feel like beyond creativity, authenticity is the most important thing to a business, because if you're building a fan base, there are fans because of what the brand represents.
Absolutely.
And if you change that on a dime for $1, right, then you might make that money temporarily, but you're shitting on all of the people that really rock with who you were. And so you can't get these like dollar signs in your eyes when you see an opportunity that just doesn't align with who you are. And so I refuse to take anything that doesn't align with who I am. And also because that's why I quit my job. I quit my job to do what I want when I want, right? Not necessarily be a multimillionaire, right? Not necessarily to like have major partnerships or anything like that, but to be within my purpose and to do it in a way that's fulfilling to me, right? And if you come and you join the team, I want that same feeling for you, right? I want you to feel that. I want you to take ownership in the work that we do here, because eventually I hope to bring you up to where I am. You know what I'm saying? So it's easy for me because I know that I'm not gonna deviate, right? Like that's just not gonna happen. Like if you don't align with what I do, I'm not going to deviate and work with you. Now, what I will say is there have been times where I've done that on accident, where you get not dollar signs in your eyes, but it's a new opportunity, right? And we had one, I'm not going to mention what it is, but by the time it was done, I was like, man, I don't know if I should have did that. Like, I don't know if that really was us, right? We made it us, But I look back on it and I was like, that might have been a weird decision, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And those things happen. But as much as I'm conscious of it, it won't.
What do you say you get a lot of your inspiration from with the pieces of work that you guys create? What would you say your
Man,
inspiration
it's
comes from?
all over. It's all over. You ever see the movie Slumdog Millionaire?
I haven't seen it.
All
I've
right.
heard of it. It's been out for a while.
It's been out for a minute.
Yeah.
But Slumdog Millionaire, the reason he's on like Mumbai or India's version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, right? And at the very end of it, or like throughout the duration of the movie, it's his life experiences that are informing his answers to the questions, right? And they show all of his life experience. And I mean, it's amazing the way that they document this, right? But for me, like in the way that I design, I always think about Slumdog Millionaire because like my life experiences have a huge influence on the things that I choose to design about. So you'll always see like a heavy emphasis on black civil rights, like on civil rights, I should say, but the black experience in civil rights. You'll see a heavy emphasis on that in some of like even our copy, like what we're talking about, right? But at the same time, although we're a black-owned company, we create for everyone, right? And so you'll see other cultures represented, right? But I tend to adhere to the things I'm most familiar with, right? So I'm familiar with where my people are from, right? I'm Puerto Rican and black. My father's Puerto Rican, my mother's black, right? But I was raised with the black side of my family, so I identify more as black, even though my last name is Castro and I go by Castro, right? So it's a wild dichotomy, right? But in that, I take those cultural experiences and I infuse them to the work that we do. And then I tend to go on tangents outside of that, right? So we had designed a Port-au-Prince hat for Haiti, right? I'm not from Haiti, but I dove deep into what Haiti was about, you know? I dove deep into the idea of what it is to have a real revolution within your own country, the idea that that's the only black country that overthrew its government, right? And so now they have a lot of things going on politically right now, but I felt like that was a powerful statement no matter who you were, right?
Absolutely.
And that's where I get the most inspiration. So anytime that I could infuse like something like laser focused, the designs always come out that much more intense, like, and more personal. You know what I mean?
I want to talk to you about, support, because we had this conversation a lot where we're from, and then we talked about a little bit before we started about not ownership, having support.
Yeah.
How do you feel like your support system was, and like when you started your business, like were you looking for that support from close friends and family? Because a lot of times those people may be like, yeah, I'm gonna support what you're doing, man. I'm gonna go get your crowns and everything that you're doing. And then a lot of times when your product is ready, those are the people that don't. It happens all the time.
Yeah. Man, I can't say that, right? I can't. My people supported me for sure. But I people are only going to take you as serious as you take yourself, right? And so when you are creating something and if you try to panhandle it to somebody in a way that makes them uncomfortable, you really can't expect them to support you, right? But if you throw everything you got at what you're creating and you do something meaningful, people are going to be inspired, right? And when people are inspired, they spend their money with you. And I think people need not focus on the negative aspect of like the person that sits next to them all the time, not spending their money with them, because you don't really know what their predicament is. They might not be able to afford what you got, right? And I know that that's happened with me at times, because I've encountered people at pop-ups, and it might be a little kid that wants a hat, and I see their parents and I see them like looking in their wallet counting, and it's like, I know what this is, and I know this kid is gonna be disappointed. You know what? Fuck it, here, right? And just give it to him. And it's not even outside. Like, I look at it sometimes like buying somebody a drink. Like if we go out to the bar or something, like I'll buy you a drink, right? Let's say it's $8, $15, whatever, right? At the end of the day, for me, it's cost of goods, right? And so in those moments, I'm an empathetic person, and I see what that is, and I know what that is. I've been there, right?
Mm-hmm.
I got my first pair of Jordans at like 26, you know, probably even later, because when I was younger, we didn't have bread like that. And so I'm probably navigating myself away from the original question, which was
So it's just about
because I'm rambling.
That support.
Yeah.
You looking for that support. From
Yeah. So
friends and family?
I was, but more so in the sense of like telling me I'm on the right track, like.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I did a family and friends investment package, right? Trying to get people to invest in me. And there was one person, Tigo Dorsett, who's a mentor of mine now. I called him on Father's Day, you know, and I talked to my dad on Father's Day, but this is somebody that also had a significant influence on me. And I remember he came to my house at the time, and he came with his daughter, or I don't know if he came with both, but he came to my house. He came with a check. And he was like, "Here, man, I appreciate what you're doing." And it was like $250 or something like that. But this is very early on, like, and we were looking to raise probably about 10 grand from a bunch of people. And when he came and did that, I never forgot it, right? I never forgot it. I remember later, at a later date, like we're in the same fraternity, we're both Qs. And I created a crown for the Qs called the Resolute. And I remember he kept hitting me. He was like, "Yo, what's the link? What's the link?" I wouldn't give it to him, right? And the reason was because I knew when I saw him, I was gonna bless him with it, right? Because when I went to him to try to pay him back, he's like, I don't need that. He's like, I'm just happy to see you kept doing it. I'm happy to see you kept at it. And so while I could say like maybe I wasn't looking for support, I was definitely appreciative when it came, and I'm still appreciative. Like at the very beginning, I knew everybody that was buying something. I look at the manifest, I'm like, oh, that's my dog, that's my dog. Oh, that's the homie, that's the homie, that's the homie, that's the homie. And then your aspiration shifts to being like, man, I can't wait till the day that I don't know anybody. That day's now. I don't know nobody. Like 9 times out of 10, I mean, every now and then I see somebody's name on there. I'm like, oh, okay, I think I know who that is. But nah, it don't be anybody.
But it's good that you stay true to what you were doing. Like you say, you got that support, and that's I tell this story a lot as well about you know, when people see you doing something that you want to do and you're fully invested in it, they don't mind helping you. That's like the microphones and all this equipment that we have. Like that was a gift from my brother and my best friends, and that was a part of the reason why I was down about this interview and just coming down here yesterday. Like I really wasn't even in the mood because I was like, man,
I don't have the equipment.
Yeah, I don't have the equipment, and I was like, the main thing is like, just let them find it. Like, I don't want the stuff that they invested in me with to be just go. And that's the main reason I was down. And I was like, man, if we can do the interview, but if we can just wait until we get everything, man, it makes it just so much better. But it's one of those things, like I always say too, is when you invest in it, people will just pour into you and your and when they see that you're doing something positive, man, like
100%.
They don't mind helping, or even like I said, sometimes people you don't even know will just
100%.
bless you with anything.
Yeah.
Like just because you're doing something positive and it's gonna make a difference.
We had a guy, his name is if I'm correct, I think his name is Alex Lopez, right? And we saw an order come in, it was like $1,500, right? Of crowns. And it was I believe it's the largest order that was a non-wholesale order that's ever come through, right? It might have even been more than that. I can't remember exactly, right? So we see this, we're like, man, who is this, right? Like he bought everything we got, right? That's crazy. That's fire. And I looked at the orders, and it wasn't his first order. So he kind of like tested the waters a little bit, and then came back and bought something else. And so one day somebody hits us on the Dungeon Ford Instagram. I don't know who this is, right? And I'm just rapping with him in the DMs, like, oh man, I love what y'all doing, whatever. And we're just going back and forth. I was like, I appreciate the support. I can't remember the entire conversation, but at the end of it, he was like, yo, I'm the dude that just spent $1,500. And of course we knew who that was, right? Of course, like, cause that just doesn't happen every day. I mean, we get, $400 or $500 orders, but like, that's major, you know? And at the end of it, he was like, yo, man, I appreciate you hollering at me. Like, I'm definitely gonna cop more, right? And then he asked me, he was like, we had some crowns that were sold out on the site, and he was like, you wouldn't happen to have these laying around. Now, granted, like, sometimes we keep 1 or 2 samples just in case we want to come back with it later at a later date. But I appreciated the conversation. I appreciated that major level of support. I made them accessible to him and him alone, right? And that was something like an experience that I never was like, oh man, I hope that I have this experience with the customer. But when it did happen, it's like, wow, that's crazy. Like, this is somebody I don't know, never have met, and is a true supporter of the brand. And for us, we got to support them too, you know?
Absolutely. I want to talk to you about something else that kind of hurts a lot of our businesses as well. We talk about this, and you kind of alluded to it with the kid who didn't have that money at the time, but
right.
you shot him in the head or something.
Yeah.
The crown is, for a lot of us, we say, black business doesn't mean cheap or free. Do you have those instances where people will try to lowball you in the sense where like, hey man, can you work this out with me?
Right.
I got this much. Can you shoot me a crown?
Yeah.
Do you have those instances where they try to just try to get a discount on
I mean, not necessarily like people that I know. I've definitely had people like hit us in the DM like, what's up with the discount, right? If we got a deal that's like on the table like already, I might send it to them, depending on how they approach us, right? Because for me, I'm like, if you get 10% off or 15% off, and then now you in the fold, like this your first order, like that's my investment into introducing you to my brand, right? But at the same time, I won't allow anybody to diminish the value of the brand. So I've had people that have said it in a different way, like, oh man, this ain't worth whatever, right? And but it's not many, and it's not even enough for me to really even, I would never even speak on that had you not asked the question, because it's just irrelevant, you're not my customer, and so thanks for saying, I don't know, sometimes I don't know how to respond, and sometimes I probably, people need to take away my phone, because sometimes I'll respond like, I'm witty, you know what I'm saying? It's not going to be disrespectful, but I'll actually look at somebody's like page and then respond to something that I shouldn't do it, but I do it all the time, man.
But it's one of those things, we talk about it because we say all the time, like, if people go to any of these major corporations, we can't go in there and just say, hey man, I see it say it's $20, but can I get it for 10?
Yeah.
If it's on the price tag, then we'll
I challenge you though. I've done that, right? Yeah. I've done that in instances. So think about like, now this is different. This is not the same as somebody just coming to Dungeon Fort who's never purchased anything from Dungeon Fort. You can't get it anywhere else, and you just be like, give it to me for $25, right? Go home, bro. Get out of here. But I would say that there's always leverage in the potential for negotiation, especially for large purchases, right? So you can go to Best Buy and say, okay, this TV is $1,200. Like, I give you 11, right? I give you $1,100, right? Their store managers, right, have the capability of saying yes or no. And you never know what type of day they're having at this store, and they might just accept it. So I wouldn't say in every instance, like, you wouldn't do that. But I do use that as a reference, because where people don't do that is where they charge the most for things, right? So people bargain on items that they're not familiar with, and maybe might be within a price range that is kind of close to what they would be okay with spending, right? So like right now our most expensive crown is $65. Let's say somebody said, I'll give you $35, right? We would never accept it, but I also wouldn't feel like, I wouldn't feel dissed, you know what I mean? I'm like, this just ain't the one for you, but it's a couple on the site that are within your price range, right? Like, maybe in the future you might grab this at a later date, right? But you're not going to go into Louis Vuitton and say, okay, this messenger bag is $2,500, right? Let me get that for like 22, right? You're not going to say it. At least people who perceive that as something that's aspirational, right? The folks that don't see that as aspirational, that are, they got billions of dollars, or hundreds of millions of dollars, and they go into the Louis Vuitton store, I guarantee you they're saying, all right, I'm going to buy 3 bags, but you're going to give them to me for this, right? And I guarantee you 9 times out of 10, those people in the store, they have the power to do that. And I happen to know somebody that works for Versace and somebody that works for Gucci. And in those spaces, they do have the capability. But 9 times out of 10, if it's aspirational for you, you're not going to ask.
And I guess in a sense, I was kind of speaking from a black-owned business aspect because I don't.
Bad.
I don't want people to kind of like you said diminish our work. Like
yeah.
It kind of happened about maybe about a month ago when we took some pictures. It was my guy Johnny. He does a lot of great work for Showtime Productions. Shout out to Johnny. And what happened really was, he took some pictures. We took some family pictures and everything. And I said, hey man, I appreciate you coming out because it was kind of like last minute. It's like,
yeah.
Man, how much is it for the family pictures and everything? So it was kind of like he showed me. He didn't really tell me his prices. He just pulled them up on his phone and on his website. He's like, you can just pick any of these prices. And it was just like for individual pictures and headshots and stuff like that. And it's kind of like, I guess he didn't want to charge me the full price of what it would cost for like actual family pictures.
Is this your boy though?
He's helped me in the past. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, really good people, man. We had him on for an interview and things like that. And then I just like, for me, of course, doing these interviews, I don't want to shortchange anybody. And I was like, he was going to let me pay any of those prices on that chart. But I think family pictures may have been the most. Yeah. I was like, you know what, man, I can't be up here just talking about, support black businesses and all these entrepreneurs and then diminishing somebody's work. I was like, man, I took family pictures, I'm going to pay the family picture price.
Right.
I'm not going to take family pictures and then pay like I took like headshots.
Yeah.
That wasn't right.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things I was kind of like alluding to, like as far as like black owned business.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to diminish somebody's work because he took a lot of pictures for us, a lot of great pictures. And I didn't want to be one of those people like, man, you did all this, man, but let me get it like half price. Like, I made sure that I paid full price, because he's investing his time, taking time away from what he could have been doing, to help me out and do something for me. So I wanted, I didn't want to shortchange him.
I agree with that. Yeah. And if you worthy of the discount, you're never gonna have to ask for it, right? So like your peoples that do things, like I got homies that, they know they hit me, and I don't like for people to, if somebody's watching, I know, please don't say, I'll cash up you. Like, I don't like that because we have a whole process on the back end where our inventory is managed and all that stuff. So anytime something's done outside of that process, we got to accommodate for that. However, there are people that have been rocking with me since the beginning, right? And they my real friends, and some of them I send stuff to as gifts. Like, and they don't have to ask, and if they call me and they're like, they want something, they're not asking for a hookup. But I'm always going to show love because y'all been supporting me from the get-go, you know what I'm saying? And so I think there's a difference between, somebody like just completely diminishing your work and somebody who is in your periphery that you have a certain level of respect for, that you have a rapport with, that you like, I really, this does cost me this much, but I really want you to have it. You know what I'm saying? I really just want you to have it. And so give me whatever you think, And I've done that before with a couple people that I don't want to count their pockets, but I don't know where they at, and I know where our price points are at. And I said, you know what? It's like one of my friends, when I bought my house, I came down, I asked him, I said, listen, me and my wife, we're going to save up for a house. I know y'all got an extra room. Would y'all mind if we just shacked up in there for a little while, pay y'all rent until we stack the money up to buy the house, right? And for us, this was like, me and my wife, when we were thinking about doing this, I was like, this is wild to even ask this question, right? Because I'm not 100% certain if I would do it, right? If I would let somebody come and be in my space for that period of time. And so I asked him and he did it, right? And so I remember he reached out to me like at the beginning of the pandemic. It was like, yo, masks are sold out everywhere. And so I happened to be ahead of the game on that by accident, right? 3 years before the pandemic hit, I just made 3,000 masks randomly, right? Because I went on a trip to China. I saw people wearing masks out there, and I was like, you know what? This might be a trend that hits the United States at one point. I don't know, right? So I just made some. I started a brand called Blank Face, and pandemic hits, right? So I end up having the thing that everybody wants, right? And my boy, who let me stay in his house, right, hits me. He was like, yo, you got any more of those masks available? I drove to his house and I put them in the mailbox, because it's Corona. We couldn't interact or anything like that. But it was like, you're not buying nothing from me. What are you talking about? Right. Like, that's not questionable. But the people that are deserving of the hookup, they never going to have to ask for the hookup.
Because they know it's like, man, you good. Don't even.
Yeah, because the person on the other end is already going to be like, bro, you good.
Absolutely.
If the person's not like that, it's,
Right. Just a few more questions and then we're ready to wrap it up.
Okay.
Speaking of the pandemic, how did COVID impact the way you manage your business?
Man, so, all right. So I quit my job September 2019. My last day was November 1st, 2019. I made my biggest order before I quit my job. That order was delivered, I think, around like November 15th, 2019. And on that same day, one of my main manufacturers hits me and they're like, yo, I don't know what's going on, but there's like this virus over here. At the time, there was like, if you looked at the news, it was like maybe 10 people with the coronavirus, right? Nobody was talking about this at all. Like, it wasn't even relevant news in the United States. And they're like, but a couple factories are closing. I'm not really sure what's going on. So now I'm hypersensitive to this thing and I'm hyper aware, but I don't know where it's at. And so when I saw it was announced that the epicenter was in Wuhan, I had been to my manufacturer the previous May. So I know exactly where it's at on the map, right? And so I'm looking at Wuhan and I'm looking at where they at. And I'm like, they're 4 hours away, right? And the quarantine for Wuhan was in layers. So Wuhan was just locked down. You couldn't get in, couldn't get out. But then there was like lockdowns at the train stations and lockdowns and all this other stuff. And so like when it happened quick. Like it cannot do anything, right? And so I lucked up because I had made my biggest order right before. So everything came in right before. But the other thing that I was lucky about was that I had those masks that had just been sitting at my house for a period of time. And so around February time frame, I took my last international trip. I still haven't taken one since, right? With the St. Kitts, I remember coming back and the not the gate agent, the customs agent saw me wearing a mask, right, when I came back. And I'm hypersensitive to it because I'm talking directly to somebody that's in it, right? Mm-hmm. And I know that there's flights coming back and forth from there already. So it's like, it's here, right? And I remember the dude telling me, he's like, man, why you got that dumb mask on, man? You crazy, right? So anyways, right after that, all shit hits the fan and everything shuts down. So I cut all my ads. I'm like, why am I going to be running ads right now when everybody's trying to figure out what the hell they're going to do with their life, right? People getting laid off, people's businesses getting shuttered, entrepreneurs don't know what to do to pay their people. I'm like, I feel like it's really irresponsible of me to be running these ads right now until we have an understanding of like if shit's going to settle down or not, right? So I pull back and I notice a trend. I'm like, wait a second. My volume is still the same, right? And at first that was like, it was skewed by mass sales, right? Because that was a new product, whatever. But I only had 3,000. Those were gone in 2 weeks, right? Mm. But it bumped up that month. But then after that, I'm looking at my sales trends as they trend on the same days of the previous month. And they're like equivalent, but I'm not running any ads. I'm like, what's going on? People at the crib and they just boom. And so I pay attention the following month and I'm like, okay, people are just becoming aware of the brand. So I said, you know what? All right, everybody's supportive. I'm watching the news. People like, part of their therapy is online shopping. You know, that was me too. Like somebody needed to take my Amazon Prime away from me because it was boxes coming to the crib. I didn't even know what they were. It was like Christmas because I'm like, I don't know what I ordered, so let me open it. But our sales volume increased tremendously. So I started running ads, and then 2020 ended up being our best year to date. But mind you, it was also my first year 100% focused on the business, and I quit right before a pandemic hit. So if there was any definition of back against the wall, that was that. Like, I got my family at the crib. No, I'm not on the ropes. Like, this is not happening. I'm taking this shit down. And so I was just figuring out any avenue that I could get my product in front of people so that they could, be aware of it and hopefully potentially purchase it, and that should happen. And so I'm super grateful for it because I had no idea, what was going to happen. And it was proof of concept because my career prior to that was in the medical space. If there was any point in time where they needed people to come back into the fold, it was then. Mm-hmm. And so upon my exit, there was already the invite to come back. So I'm like, you got this voice in the back of your head like, man, can you go? Nah, I didn't. And so my back was against the wall. I didn't want to do that for any purpose. And it ended up working out, thankfully.
What do you think it is? It seems like it's always something about, just going all in on what you want to do, even though like you said, that voice in the back of your head right at the beginning of this pandemic. Mm-hmm. But you stayed down with it, and you just went all in. What do you think? What is it? It's like, is it like clarity, or what is it that you think it is that when you go all in on your vision and on your business, it's almost like just by faith and just destiny that it's bound to happen. What do you think that is about just going all in that makes everything pay off?
So it's multiple things, right? So you mentioned a word that's major for me, right? So I used to pray for things to happen, right? Back in the day, and now I just ask the universe for clarity, right? That was like my main thing because that is directly in alignment with the most difficult thing I told you about, which is choosing what's the right thing to do in the right moment, right? And so I always ask for clarity. That's it. That's why I go to the beach in the morning, for clarity. Like, it's pure silence. Nobody else out there. It's just me and music and the water splashing. Like, to get prepared for my day, that's a major thing for me. But the other thing, though, is, like, not wanting to regret not going hard. You know what I'm saying? Not being, like, imagine you get, like, I saw this meme one time where this dude is digging, and there's, like, a massive diamond right in front of him, and he quits, right? And so he did all this work, and he was right there at the fulfillment, and he quit, right? For me, it's just no quitting, bro. There's just no quitting. Like, and every little inch of success that you get makes you addicted to what is the potential, like, okay, I signed this deal with Nickelodeon, but who else, and no offense, but but seriously, like, that's now new leverage, right? So we previously we had a deal with Airheads. We used that, right? And we signed a deal with Nickelodeon. Once we launched that product, now we're adjacent to a brand that's been around for I don't know how many years, right? Mm-hmm. Over 50. And so at that point, what's the next level? I won't say plateau because we ain't trying to stop. We're not taking breaks. We're going to keep going, right? But what's the next milestone? And that's what keeps me going. I'm just curious about how far can this go? Right. Like, now and then you end up having different goals, right? So, like, initially it's like, how can I create a legacy for my family, right? And then you get to a point where you're so big that you need help, right? So now you bring in people to help, and it's like, now I have you to, I shouldn't say worry about, because I'm not worried, right? But now I want the same thing I want for me, for you, right? And it's like, that's a totally different goal. I never even knew I had that goal, right? And so now I'm like, okay, how can I build up this person to be the best that they can be? Whether or not it's somebody that stays with the brand, which I would hope, or not, right? It's your encounter with Dungeon Ford. I wanted to be a lifetime of influence, right? Mm-hmm. And positive influence. And so, but that's a totally different goal. And that's another thing that keeps me going, because now if I falter and I give up, I done let some people down. You know what I mean? Not in a sense of like let them emotionally down. Finance, like, now you're not making any money. Mm-hmm. I just can't do it, right? And it's just I just feel like once you know what you're capable of, there's no going back. Once you realize like the level of greatness and potential in people, there's no way that you won't try to expose them to it. You know what I'm saying?
It's like you like you said, you just don't want to quit. Like even
It's
with the
not
book,
possible.
like I wrote the book.
Yeah.
And like I said it before, like man, after I finished my book, I wrote down. I write down my goals and the things I want to accomplish, places I want to travel to.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote down I want to finish my book and put it out. And then after we had the book signed and everything, I kind of was like stay home for a few days and just relax.
Yeah.
And then after that, I was like, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
Okay, now it's the tour.
Yeah.
Put together another tour.
Yeah.
We're gonna hit the
Which
road.
that's lit too, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just like we're going all in, and then something else that just happened the other day. I think it was yesterday, or the day before that, when we had one of our former managers. He down in Charleston now. He was like, man. He said, man, I love what y'all doing. Congratulations. And let me know when y'all may come down to Charleston and do your interview. He was like, I got me and some friends. We want to come and sit in on one of your interviews. Now, for me, with our interviews, it's kind of like a closed.
And that's your
like
manager. That's your ex-manager.
Yeah, it's like a one-on-one interview. We never had anything where it's like a live audience or whatever.
Yeah.
So now in my mind, they put it in my mind, man, we never done this. Let's another challenge. Let's try to put together something where we can finally have a live audience and people will sit in. So that's something like now that I'm embracing, because at first, like, I never really thought about, man, we're gonna have like a live audience. So it's kind of just been like these closed environments like this. But now for me, it's kind of like embracing that. Next is like, okay, we're on tour. What else, like you said, like what's next? What else can we do?
Yeah.
So now it's like we're gonna figure out a way to get that a live audience in there so they can watch one of our interviews. Cause I mean,
that's crazy.
I love stuff like
that's
this.
Crazy.
Man.
But pause on that for a second, man. This is your manager that you work for, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you've inspired your manager so much that they just want to be around your energy.
Right.
That's crazy.
It is.
Right? That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it is to like start to find your greatness, bro.
Right.
Because you're doing something that's not comfortable. You're doing something that's not like the typical path. It's not. There's no formula, right? I mean, maybe now people have done podcasts or whatnot, and you could try to follow in their footsteps, but your subject matter is always going to be different. Mm-hmm. That's your differentiator. That's like the thing that reels people in within the demographic that follows your show. And because of that, your manager is inspired. Your ex-manager is inspired. Like, imagine how many other people.
And that to me, when he said that, yes, I was like, wow, man. It's like, of course, you always see people, like, you never know who's watching anything, but it's like, man, like you said, like, I really didn't think about it till just now when you said it. Actually, like, just imagine your former manager was seeing what you're doing, and he is inspiring. And I appreciate that, because now he's telling other people.
100.
And now they're tuning in.
And he probably feels like he might be a part of your story a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, and which he is, in some way, whether it be negative or positive, but the fact that he would even connect other people into what you're doing, it just tells you a lot about the path that you're taking and how righteous it is, because people don't just jump on any train. You know what I mean? They like to jump on trains that they know where they're going to. Like I'm not just going to go to the airport and just go to a gate that don't say nothing on it and just hop on the flight. I want to know where I'm going. And so when people think about where a business is going, they think about success, right? They think about supporting people with the gumption to get to a point of success, right? Mm-hmm. It's not about where you're at right now. It's 100% about them seeing like, oh, he gonna figure this out. Mm-hmm. Like, I know that he gonna figure this out. Hey, y'all, come check this out. Like, look at what's already been done.
Right. And I never paint the picture like I got everything figured out. I always tell people, I don't have all the answers. Yeah. But I'm still going. Like, you just got to keep going, man. And you're going to figure out different things you can do along the way. Mm-hmm. But it's like you just have to be determined. And it's a lot of times, honestly, it hurts, man. Like, I have emails where people, like, decline things, say, no, this is not the time, or they won't respond at all. Yeah. And that stuff, I mean, like you say, I never had it anyway, so, okay, it is what it is. But, it does, it kind of, I think that's a big reason why a lot of people don't go after what they want, because
they don't like rejection. Yeah.
But it's part of it, man. It's part of the process. Like, I remember one of the people I listened to, Bob Proctor, is one of the things he said on another interview he did was like a key to, for entrepreneurship. He said, just get used to rejection. Mm-hmm. He said it's all a part of it.
It's a part, yeah.
It happens, man. So when people ask me about it, just get started, just work, man, just grind. And if somebody says no, it's gonna be somebody else that says
Say
yes.
yeah.
But you just got to be willing, step out on faith and bet on yourself, man. And that's, to me, that's really one of the best things, the best feelings, man. And like, without us doing this, creating this platform, we might not be in Fort Lauderdale, doing this interview today, man. And listening to a lot of these gems that you're dropping, man. But you just got to bet on yourself and just go after it.
Nah, for sure. I mean, I think you mentioned one thing just now I wanted to respond to. You was talking about, I don't know all the answers. And I would advise anybody to stay away from somebody that has all the answers, like, and rock with people that have all the questions, because you need to, in order for you to be successful, you got to maintain your curiosity, right? And that's one of the things that I try to like instill in my daughter and try to cultivate in my daughter is her curiosity. Like anytime she's exploring something, if she makes a mistake or whatnot, I try to make sure that I don't make her feel like she's in trouble, because I know that she was exploring, right? And I want to maintain that within her, because the more you explore, the more you learn, the more you figure out who you are. And so anytime somebody knows everything, it inhibits them from growing.
Absolutely.
But if you around like curious people, if you're around like question askers, right? That's where you're gonna find the most growth, because they're gonna ask you a question that you didn't contemplate, and you're like, damn, now I gotta formulate an answer for this, and I didn't even think about it.
Absolutely. What would you say is the best advice that you received so far on your journey?
Oh man, keep going. That's it. Man, like, so I have a couple people that I reach out to here and there for advice on specific projects. Like TJ Walker, he's one of the founders of Cross Colors. I don't know if you're familiar with the brand. So Cross Colors was a major brand in the 90s. When were you born?
92.
92. Okay, yeah, that's why you don't know. That's why you don't know. But I was born 84. And so Cross Colors was like a major brand in the 90s. I'm talking about like black-owned brand, hundreds of millions of dollars, right? And broad distribution everywhere. And I ended up connecting with TJ in LA during the pandemic. And we had a one-on-one quick conversation in his showroom in the design district in LA. And I remember after we left, we walked down, and I was getting ready to cross the street. He was walking in a different direction. I shake his hand, and he was like, he looked at me and he said, "You got to keep going." And he's like, "You're a teacher, right?" And when he said you're a teacher, I didn't really quite comprehend it until I had people that were working for the brand. And it was just like, this is the moment where this is what you were talking about, right? And so that the keep going I've heard, over and like several times, but that moment like stuck with me. Like, I even telling you the story, I know what I had on, what I'm saying? I know I had a mask that said higher power on it. I know I had on the Mag Safari hat. Like, I know exactly what I had on it. I know I had my backpack on. I know I was right across the street, and I remember looking at his face, and I remember when we walked in the building, Salim Bembury, who used to design for Versace, was walking in as well. I didn't meet him, but I just remember this, like, because that's how much that impacted me, like that statement that he had. So I think that's it.
When you look back, is it a particular goal that you look back on and that you set that you're like, man, I really accomplished that? It's like, this is something it was a goal I had in the past, but now I finished it. It's like, it really wasn't that bad. Like, it really wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. Do you have one of those goals that you look back, man, I really accomplished that?
Man, there's several of them, but I got to train myself a little bit more to like lift my head up and look around and see where we at, because, I'm in the thick of it, and so I still consider us to be a really small business. I consider us to not be doing everything that we can do, and getting more efficient, identifying like our processes and all of that stuff on paper, so that when it's time for the next person to do it, that they have a document to guide them. Because when I brought in people, like, I definitely didn't have that. So yeah, man, I don't know. Yeah, it's difficult to answer that question.
My final two questions. If you had to lay out a blueprint for somebody to say, hey, Castro, I want to start my own business. I may not have the capital or whatever, but I just want to start my own business and finally invest in myself. What would you say was like a blueprint to starting a business and creating an opportunity for anybody, just in business in general?
I would say find a way to test your product out and to test the market out with the least investment possible, right? So make sure you get out there. But let's say you're developing a brand and you're at the very beginning, maybe invest in some samples and just start to gather information from the people that are around you to see if it's even something that they would rock with, right? Rather than going to the gusto at the very beginning and taking all of your resources and your capital and putting all your eggs in one basket right away. I would say do that. And because you take that approach, you don't have to wait to do it. You get what I'm saying? Also, I think a lot of people are always afraid to tell their ideas because they think somebody might take them. This is going to sound crazy, but most ideas aren't good, right? They get developed as you talk about them. Just don't talk about them to people that can act on it in that moment, right? So I wouldn't ever, if I'm talking to an Adidas designer, right? I'm not about to be like, oh, no, look at what we got coming out in 2022. But if I'm talking to, my friend group, I will do that, right? Because one, you don't have any interest in doing what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And two, if you try to do it, the barrier of entry is so high, it'll take you a minute, right? Mm-hmm. So by the time you can do it, I've already done that and I'm on to the next, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That's what I would say. And then the one other piece of advice, and I already said it in this, is just start, man. Just go. Yeah. Do it. Stop making excuses and do it.
Absolutely. And then my final question as we get ready to wrap it up, this is the 2021 edition of the Cross the Line Podcast Self-Investment Tour. Mm-hmm. It's the final question that we love to ask all entrepreneurs and everybody that comes on. What does self-investment mean to you?
Self-investment. So for me specifically, it's really taking time to center myself. As an entrepreneur, you pour out to other people all day, every day, right? And one of the things that I realized is to be able to pour out, you have to replenish, you have to refill. And as an entrepreneur, it's oftentimes you may get that from a mentor, but you're the head of the business, right? So you're not going to get that from inside the business. And so that's what that is for me. And I know probably people might answer that and reference finances and reference money. But I don't think that you can get to wealth without health. And so I think you invest in your health, and your fitness and your mentality. And I think that's the biggest form of self-investment for me specifically.
Absolutely. Perfect answer. Like you said, everybody's going to have their own spin to it. But we love to ask everybody that, man. But it's about investing in yourself, believing in yourself.
Yeah.
Understand, as an entrepreneur, I think it's the toughest journey. It's tougher than a 9 to 5. Like I said, there's actually no blueprint to it, no structure. You just got to go out and you have to do all the work. Mm-hmm. And you got to be willing to take some of those tough days on the chin and just keep on going. Right. So, Castro, I really appreciate you for taking the time, man. This has been great. I
appreciate it, man.
We've been enjoying our time down here in Fort Lauderdale. Before we get out of here, can you tell everyone where they can find you?
Yeah, so you can find us on Instagram at Dungeon Forward, on our website, www.dungeonforward.com, and on any other social media, it's all Dungeon Forward. So it's pretty simple.
Absolutely. And if you guys love the crown, make sure you go get you one.
Yeah.
Everybody, just go get a crown. Support the business. Support the movement. We
appreciate
really
y'all.
love and appreciate what you guys are doing. So hopefully everyone enjoyed this episode. Until next time, keep chasing your dreams. This is the Cross the Line Podcast. Thank you for listening.
What's up? This is Castro, CEO and founder of Dungeon Forward. We're in the dungeon right now with the Cross the Line Podcast. Let's get it.